and welcome to another Huddle Breakdown Extra Time. I'm your host Martin Murphy, joined as ever by James and by Alan. So guys, a lot to get through as ever. How are you doing? How are you, James?
I'm good. I'm celebrating my wonderful wife today because
As ever?
well, as cool as she is, when we were away on our trip in September, I went back to take a nap. I had a little bit too much to drink. Shocker. And she went shopping and got me this awesome shirt. Do you know what this is, Martin?
No.
It's the Catalina effing wine mixer shirt. Do you know what movie that is? Step Brothers, one of my favorite movies.
Oh, I know the movie, but it didn't ring for me. Yeah, I know the movie.
So I'm wearing my Catalina wine mixer by what is it? Prestige Worldwide, Boats and Hose. So yes, I'm celebrating my wife wearing my shirt today.
Does seem you have a very narrow genre of movies that you watch there, James, to be honest. I'll send you, a few Kurosawa movies and things like that, mate. Maybe a bit of Bergman, But each to their own. You've got to have a variety. And what about you, Alan? How are you?
Yeah, great show idea. We should have a film review club. We've got Poetry Corner. Let's have film review club. I think it'd be all for that. International break coming up. Nothing much to talk about at Celtic. Let's do that.
We'll get over the 3 hours, I guess, with some of these extra time podcasts. But so quite a lot to get through, as I said. So we're going to be covering things like the Kilmarnock game in a little bit more depth. Looking at individual player performance, Tanetke over his 900 minutes, Alan. So might be an idea we could kind of see how he's been shaping up at this point. As I say, there's been so much about managers and people linked with Celtic. Rather than go through the individuals, I know, Alan, you made it quite clear when you were talking with Laura and James and the other, but not something that you're wanting to get into. But I think perhaps more generally, we can look at where Celtic are at, and is this a kind of watershed? Where are we going to go? What should we be looking for, etc.? Maybe a bit of Poetry Corner coming up as well there. So a few things that we'll get our teeth into, as you say, with this international break. I think we'll round off looking at the league generally now that we've covered this kind of, we're into game 13 for Celtic. Everybody's played either 11 or 12 games. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what the league table is, look at the data side of things, the analytics, the XG, the speedboat league type idea that you had introduced before, and see how that shapes up. So I think, first of all, let's get into this with the managers. A lot of different coaches, Nancy, perhaps the most high profile and among others. So if I come to you, first of all, Alan, in your point of view, what sort of manager are we looking? What's going to be the best fit for Celtic, in your opinion, with the type of manager?
We don't know what the process is, and that's the problem, right? Because it shouldn't be a secret. It should be pretty obvious for a mature, functioning modern football club. It should be obvious what the process is. The CEO and probably the director of football would be conducting a search, engaging with maybe some consultancies, agencies, that sort of thing, contacts throughout the game. But also, really fitting the person to a job spec, which again is reflective of the specifics of running a club like Celtic. If you're the manager, that's really, broadly what should happen. When you see the names bandied about, and we've seen this before with the move, pivot from Eddie Howe to Postecoglou, the pivot, Ronnie Dyler to Brendan Rodgers.
Rodgers to Neil Lennon. Yeah.
Lennon, all that. I mean, these are very different types of manager that probably needed different types of support structure behind them to be most effective. And it's all been within one football structure, which, as we know, isn't particularly modern. And by modern, we mean, really more of a breakup of roles and responsibilities than than the traditional. When I say traditional, I'm talking sort of 70s, 80s, manager as God, the Jock Dean, Bill Shankly, Matt Busby, Brian Clough, Alex Ferguson type model, where these people ran the football club. There's nothing that impacted the football operations in any way that didn't go through or across those guys' desks. That's how it was done. This very sort of domineering, big character. Very few clubs, operate that way now. The commercials are so complicated. The contracts are so complicated. Image rights and media rights and different types of agency and ownership of players and all the different people you have to deal with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's hugely complicated. Running a football is still a relatively medium-sized business, but the amounts of money have increased, and therefore the legal, the requirements to cover yourself legally are greater, et cetera, et cetera. There's more scrutiny now. You need big media departments. You can't be across all those things. It's impossible to be the SME on all of those aspects that impact your football club. So you have to think, what is it? So football has to be reflective of that and operate that in such a way that, and it also has to have football people in it, because, classic example, Manchester United, when Alex Ferguson left, Alex Ferguson was the football operation. When he left, and his sidekick, I've forgotten the guy's name. Was it David Gill? Or was he the one that replaced him? I can't remember. But the guy who was basically effectively the director of football, they both left at the same time, and there was almost literally nobody in the building that could run a football club. They were either commercial people, marketing people, and you actually need football people, because Alex Ferguson would be the one that would phone agents up and get deals done, because he had a contact list this big, and he knew how to get things done. He knew people. So, Celtic are vulnerable to the extent that we don't have a massive football operation. We don't necessarily have a clear structure, roles, and responsibilities that you'd identify as it being modern. And we've just lost a manager who is nearer in style to that old style kind of manager as God than more of a sort of head coach model. And yet here we are, apparently looking at people like Wilfried Nancy and even somebody like Knutson, who are used to operating within what most people would consider to be a fairly modern structure, or at least a coherent structure, an organisation. There's a clear identity, a clear strategy, clear goals, clear roles and responsibilities, and they operate as coaches within that. Well, Celtic doesn't have that, so you're going to plonk somebody in the middle of that and expect it all just to magically work. It's not going to work, right? Are we really looking after these managers is the next question. I don't know. Because, again, we've been here before, right? We've been here before where the press has got a list of names that it's working through and keeping copy being sold on the back of them. And then, out of nowhere, Dermot Desmond will magic somebody up that we'd never heard of. Right? And I'm not in the know on this. I don't have any notion or insight into this at all. But I wouldn't be surprised, personal opinion, if the names that are in the public domain, including the likes of Nancy and Knutson, are completely miles away from who the club are actually. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And that might sound like, oh, Celtic clever, they're doing all their business in quiet. Kind of, but also it's Dermot Desmond or somebody or his proxy magicking somebody up in the background. And what's that going to look like? So all these things are what's in my mind, which is why I'm not really too engaged with the getting into the doing like the player scouting thing on managers and looking at videos and reading articles and their tactical philosophies and all these people, because I just don't. I'm just not going to waste my time, because I don't believe any of it, and I don't trust any of it, because I don't trust the process. I don't trust the way that this is being done. And I said before, Celtic could end up being lucky. We might end up getting lucky with somebody that works, but it's not easy to do that, because it's not easy to find somebody who, what are you going to ask them to do? What are you going to ask them to be? Manager as God, run the football club in entirety, or are you going to ask them to be the head coach? Are you going to put in structures that support that or not? Who's that going to be? Are they going to get on? Are their roles and responsibilities going to be clear? Are there going to be grey areas where responsibilities are not clear? All those things I just don't have sight of, and I'm not sure to what extent the club are addressing to minimise all the risks on that. So I don't have a lot of answers and all that I've just said. I just more of a vent of frustration, and really, I suppose, in terms of the whole process. But you've got to think about what is your club DNA, what is a good manager at Celtic look like. Just things like having somebody that will understand and take on the pressure of having to win every game. Will understand the size of the club.
We hope you enjoyed this free preview from all of us here at the Huddle Breakdown. We know you have options, and we really appreciate you tuning in. To hear the rest of this episode and for much more Huddle Breakdown content, head on over to www.huddlebreakdown.com. We hope you consider subscribing. Thank you.